after COVID, what I've noticed, and me and a lot of other consultants that do what I do, have noticed that it's people you and my age, Brian, I mean, that own houses and that live in these subdivisions that are in these newer areas where they weren't there the last cycle. They're there now because of a new subdivision, and they're me and your age. Those ones are actually wanting people to come and talk to them. They're new and they're in, they're paying taxes. They have a house. They want to talk to someone about those things. And it is totally changed in almost 8 years. I've seen a big change and push of people that are our age and our generation that are starting to want that more. They're actually standing at the door. They're talking to our walkers. Our door rates for people those age are a lot higher all over the country.
Let's talk about that. Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show. Thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in lovely Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by our amazing friends over at AMP America. Folks, you don't need to go ahead and support the corporate media, their bias, their fluff. No, instead, go support the folks who are supporting you with the news you need to know, and that is your friends over at AMP America. News pieces, opinion pieces, podcasts, and more. Head over to AMP America. You will find everything you are looking for when it comes to the news. Plus, yes, talking about elections, the topic of today's conversation. We cover that in great detail as well. One more time, ampamerica.com. Also, the Brian Nichols Show and yours truly, powered by our phenomenal studio sponsors, Cardio Miracle. Now, folks, if you want to learn how Cardio Miracle can help lower your blood pressure, lower your resting heart rate, while at the same point in time improving those restless nights of sleep and also improving your pump at the gym, stick around. We're going to talk about that later in today's episode. But yes, let's go back to the elephant in the room. It's election season. I feel like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Election season, duck season, election season. No, we're going to talk today about election season, not duck season. And if you are, in fact, running for office, or heck, you're going and you're getting ready to vote for your favorite candidate, peek behind the curtain. What does it take to actually win said election? To discuss all that and more, returning to the Brian Nichols Show from Texas Hometown Solutions, Brian Rivera. Welcome back to the Brian Nichols Show. How you been?
I'm good. Your favorite Brian is back, except I spell it differently, right?
B squared, man. We make it easy for folks, though. You have the Y, I have the I. Brian Rivera, really looking forward to having you back on the show. Now, as I teased before, you and I hit the record button, elephant in the room, man. It was about 2 years ago since you were last on the show. A lot has changed. We're on a new network. Our audience has grown leaps and bounds. So there's literally tens of thousands of folks in the audience today who maybe didn't catch when you were last on the show back in 2022 as we were getting ready for the midterm elections. So, Brian, do us a favor before we dig into, yes, the topic at hand. How do you actually win an election? Do us a favor. Reintroduce yourself here to the Brian Nichols Show audience. And what is Texas Hometown Solutions?
Yeah, so hey, it's always good to be back with you. Every time we do something in New York, I always think about that congressional race you taught me about last time. But so, Texas Hometown started in 2017, 2018. I was meeting a good friend of mine. We started, and another friend, we started the firm. We were doing political campaigns. That's where I learned and cut my teeth on a couple different little races, city, county races, state rep races. And then canvassing's really what got big for us in 2019. And during COVID, when the conservatives down in Texas really missed people, we started going out there and going door to door. And that was nice. I was like, oh, cool. You can make money per door for this stuff, So that's when we got big. I think last time I was on a show, we finished that year. We were in Georgia at the time when you and I had talked. And I think we hit 215,000 doors that year total. And then last year, we're on close to 615,000 doors in 2023. And with some of the contracts we have now, we'll probably be near at least 800,000 to 900,000 this year. Wow, and that's going into the general. Yeah. So we're a whole different company now. We have full-time staff now. We have full-time managers that work for us. I even had an assistant at one time. Like, I didn't know what to do with that. Like, that's great, But we just got really big. And just canvassing. We changed our motto to doors are our thing, and we just concentrate on hitting doors. One of the coolest things is a lot of times you get people. Sometimes you always think that you have like general consultants and stuff that have a grip on what doing door to door is, but sometimes you just get a straight candidate. I know in New Mexico that happens a lot, and so being able to educate people what the doors are, even they're needing help targeting. They're like, I don't even know how to target. So there's a lot of things that we consult in doing. Sometimes we do just go get doors, and sometimes we do all the way from start to finish, helping them plan out the point of attack and hitting doors, and micro targeting, what to hit, sometimes surveys and things like that. So we've grown, and I mean, that's what we do is we help teach candidates, we help teach teams and consultants, campaign managers, and volunteers how to hit doors, and we bring in our own staff to do it sometimes too. So.
Wow. So from under or around 200K doors knocked 2 years ago to you're approaching just shy of 1 million doors. I mean, that's a 5x improvement. That's insane of the progress you guys are making. But I also think, Brian, elephant in the room, that's the sales methodology I like to teach my teams. But when you look at the elephant in the room here, it's that there is something inherently valuable of knocking on doors where
Right.
you are literally meeting the voter where they're at, their place of residence, and you're talking to that voter one-to-one. You're eliminating the media bias, you're eliminating the preconceived notions. It's just you and the voter having a conversation. There's so much there from a value standpoint. So let's just talk about this for what it is. Door knocking. I hear whenever I talk to candidates here on the show, that seems to be the game changer. Like, you have the folks who win and the folks who inevitably will lose. And I hear this time and again, the folks who lose, they do these social media campaigns. That's all they focus on. They think that they can have just the best platform. They can have the best message. That's all they really need to do. But I mean, Brian, the writing's on the wall. The proof is in the pudding. The folks who are winning these elections, and it really is party be darned, they're the folks who go out, they're putting in the blood, sweat, and tears. They're pounding the pavement. They're knocking on those doors. And that seems to be the ultimate, like, the thing that puts them over the top. So, Brian, what is it about knocking on doors in your perspective that gets a voter to go from either an undecided voter, maybe someone who was actively against a candidate, to having a conversation face-to-face at their door and actually saying, you know what, come November, I'm going to cast my ballot for Mr. or Mrs. politician name here. What is it about door knocks that's so successful?
Yeah, so in 2017, when I first started door knocking again, my first time was in 2002, but in 2017, when it came out again, a lot of statistics had said that people over the age of 60, especially at the time, like baby boomers and going up in there, that those were the ones that wanted people at the door. And so if you notice, a lot of campaigns, when they targeted the elderly or people that were 60 or older, they were targeting specifically that. And I noticed that a lot on campaigns because they were the ones that actually opened the door. They wanted to talk to you. They wanted you to come out and bring you tea and coffee and give you drinks and all sorts of stuff. Like, they wanted someone to talk to, and then they wanted to talk about their political views, or they wanted someone that's actually asking questions about a candidate. So that really helped.
Hey folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical. But after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80. And my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s. And I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle, and how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So, by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at the Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show.
After COVID, what I've noticed, and me and a lot of other consultants that do what I do, have noticed that it's people, you and my age, Brian, I mean, that own houses and that live in these subdivisions that are in these newer areas where they weren't there the last cycle. They're there now because of a new subdivision, and they're me and your age. Those ones are actually wanting people to come and talk to them. They're new and they're in, they're paying taxes. They have a house. They want to talk to someone about those things. And it is totally changed in almost 8 years. I've seen a big change and push of people that are our age and our generation that are starting to want that more. They're actually standing at the door. They're talking to our walkers. Our door rates for people those age are a lot higher all over the country because those people want to talk. And so I think what's happening now is like these candidates and these consultants have to get out of the view that it's just elderly or older people or your ones that are your ABBM, your absentee ballots are the ones that are going to open the door. That's not the truth anymore. And I've been all over the country from New York all the way to New Mexico, to Washington State, to Utah just recently. And it's not the truth. I mean, people want people at their door and they want to talk to them. They don't want to be argued about, but they want to tell about their views. And a lot of times these candidates now are getting to see that. A lot of these campaign CRMs, some of them don't have places to put notes, but a lot of times now I always tell them, hey, find a place where you can have us send notes, whether it be in Slack or whether it be on a messenger or whatever, because these people want to talk. And that's what happens consistently. Like every day, even right now, we have walkers in another state or in 2 other states, and they're getting people that are wanting to speak and say things to the candidate. And so I think that's what's really changed in our democracy or in our country now is that people really want to talk and they want to have a voice other than on social media or on the Brian Nichols Show or whatever the case might be. They want to have a voice. And a lot of times they feel like that's their direct line to that candidate or to whatever position that person is at the door. And it's true.
So let me ask you this with a little bit of a preconceived guess I have here. People want to be heard, right? Like people just want to be heard. So how much of it is that people are looking at either the candidate or the surrogate, whoever is at the door, knocking on the door on that candidate's behalf, that they're looking at that person as a sounding board to get their frustrations out, right? To talk about whatever it is that's bothering them. Like here, I'll give you a real life example. Whenever I get one of those phone calls from a survey person, name the survey organization, asking about the perception I have of the upcoming election, I'm happy to give context. I'm happy to give nuance. They're like, what's your thought on the economy? I'm like, not too great. They're like, oh, really? Tell us more. The fact that you now can be heard, right? Versus sitting on social media and yelling into the void or yelling into the echo chamber. Is it that people just feel that the conversations at the door could actually lead to some substantive change?
I think so. And, the proof's in the data. We always have, girls and guys that go to doors and we always tell them have a big smile when you go to the door, right? I mean, you're going to someone's domain, you're going to somebody's house and, no matter what their sign says, that you're going to somebody's house. And so be very respectful, smile, no matter who you are. I'm 6'3", 255 pounds. And so I'm a big guy if I go to a door. So I'm making sure I got the big smile that I'm, and the thing is that openness that I have with that person. Hey, my name is, Brian Rivera. I'm with the Brian Nichols campaign. I just want to let you know that he's running for this office. And I had to joke and giggle, but he's running for this office. And, these are the things that he's done. This is what he plans on doing. Here's the push card. Do you plan on voting? Do you plan on voting for him? But then that gives them like, sometimes that's a forced way of like, this is who it is. But then there's like also the chance and opportunity to like stop and listen to them. And I always tell the walkers when we train them, just listen. And sometimes you may not agree, and that's okay, but just listen to the people. And if it's something you take a valid note on, let's do that, because we want the candidates to know that. And who doesn't love a candidate not coming back to their house? Like, seriously, like, for them to come to their house. And so we try to do that. I love campaigns when they're like, hey, give me their addresses, we're going to send the candidate there, and not just a representative. And I'm like, perfect. And so that to me is what's changing. And like I said earlier, and what we're saying now is that people just want that opportunity to vent to somebody and to talk to someone. And then a lot of times that's what we do. We represent, especially with incumbents that are walking at the doors. That's one of the things you have to face a lot, because no matter, I don't get too much in the weeds on state policy or stuff like that, or federal policy all the time, but I have to catch up a little bit, because especially when you have an incumbent, you'll get them saying, well, why did he vote in this, HB 329 7A? You're like, oh, and so there's a lot of that. And so I just tell people, you may not understand what the people are asking about, but take notes, and whoever that is, volunteer or paid staff, take a note, let the managers take it from there, and we get it up right away to the candidate or the consultant and let them see what the people are saying at the door. And sometimes I've been at places for like county races where it was a certain area where they were having some sewage issues. And so like every one of the constituents that was targeted, it was all sewage. And he knew that it was going to be about that. So he came back around and he was able to target them about sewage and some of the things that they were mitigating that through the county. So, it's just good to take those notes and just having a very valid group of people that can take those notes and that can be valuable into what you're sending. Because a lot of times people nowadays, there's so many companies out there, and I'm not afraid to say it, there's so many companies out there, they just want to earn the buck. Yep. And sometimes they lit drop. And that's the problem with lit dropping, is that you're not going to get a valid response. Sometimes I understand people are home, but when you're doing it every 15 seconds, you never give the people a chance to come to the door, to talk through the ring app, which happens a lot. And so, you don't give the people a chance to do that, but people's voice is valuable. And I think that's what a real firm has to do. They have to be able to listen to the people and be able to take that information back to the candidate and to the consultants.
Brian, one of the main issues we see, and I thought this is more of a local issue, local politics issue. It's really, though, transcending. I think we're seeing this in state elections and even in some federal election, is that voter turnout has been abysmal in recent years. And I don't know the reason for that. So is it a matter of people are they're just disheartened with the political process? They feel that their vote doesn't matter. What is it that's pushing people to not go to the polls on voting day? And is it something that we're hearing as you're knocking on doors?
Yeah, I mean, you get it all the time, depending on what areas. I was walking in a state just recently, and we were hitting a conservative area, and a lot of my girls and guys that were at the door were like, a lot of these people said they haven't voted yet. It was during GOTV or during the early voting. Well, a lot of conservatives, especially, I know this happens in Texas. Now, this was in Maryland, but in Texas, I know a lot of times if you've worked the polls before in Texas, like straight, hard Trump conservatives are not voting usually until election day. Yep. Because of their faith in our systems, right, that we use to for people to vote, right, and the voter ID or whatever the case might be. And so that happens a lot. And so a lot of races that we do work, when we do get people that say they haven't voted, that's kind of like a really good feeling, because you're like, okay, cool, let's get them out to vote. And that's kind of the purpose of us being at the door. But that's one of the things we hear a lot from a lot of people is they're waiting, or B, they just don't have a lot of faith in the democracy sometimes, or the reason to go out to vote. And so you get that a lot at the doors, which is very sad to hear that when they are undecided, or they just say, or if they're undecided, I'm okay with that. But when they actually say, yeah, I just don't trust the system, and so I'm just not going to vote, it breaks my heart, because if people really realize that. I know one thing that you point all the time is that we do matter. Our voices do matter, and a lot of these people feel like they don't, and so you do get that a lot at the doors, unfortunately.
Really quick, how do your canvassers overcome that objection? Like, hey, our democracy, I don't have a voice, my vote doesn't matter. Like we talk about in sales, overcoming objections or blocking objections. Like what's the kind of plan of attack for when your canvassers are getting that as a response?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things is I always ask for fallbacks, right? Like, so a lot of times when you're at the door, I always love whenever a good consultant will have all the things that are fallback on that push card, especially on the back. Like, he voted for this, he voted for that, he voted for that. And so it's a good opportunity to fall back and say, you know what, man, I understand how you feel about that. I just do want to reiterate that he was for, closed borders or whatever the case might be. And, and I'm not going to argue with you, not telling them you're going to argue with the door, but hey, I just want to give this information for you, and any other information, you can look him up on his website. You can even contact him here and whatnot. And I'm sure he would love to talk to you some more about it. It's not an opportunity for us to argue, but it's just an opportunity for us to say, here's this person. There's what they're about. Look them up for more information. I have some information here. I'm not going to argue with you at your door, but I do want you to look into this person. I want you to see the value that they could be for your community, for your, congressional district, whatever. And that's kind of the biggest main point, is being able to introduce them to them, right? And that's what I was saying. Persuasive is a whole nother thing, because then a lot of times that's when you're persuading them because they voted this way or they voted that way. And a lot of times that gets a little different, a little bit more less or more diplomatic at the door, but being able to explain to the person why specifically there'd be value for that. So going back to the county thing where I talked about the sewage, that was an issue. And I remember that race specifically where that county commissioner was not a county commissioner, and the current person had voted against it for whatever the reason. And then so he was able to go out the door and say, hey, look, this is how that guy voted. This is why your neighborhood stinks, right? And so and that neighborhood, he won that precinct. He won that whole precinct. And so a lot of times that's it's just a matter of finding value to what each individual need, or what those people are wanting to hear at the door, or just wanting to talk about at the door. I think that's what helps the most.
One of the things I've been hearing quite a bit for keeping people from entering into the political arena, especially folks who've never run for office before, and just, I'll give you a real life case study. I live in a small little town here in Eastern Indiana, and the existing city council and the existing mayor, they're very much in that old, like the good old boys club, right? Yeah. So I hear this quite a bit from folks who they're our age. They want to get involved in the world of politics. They see the existing political infrastructure. It's not working. Yeah. In many cases, it's actively going against the voters' interests. I don't even need to dig into the just fiasco that we have here, much like what you were talking about. Same church, different pew, not sewage, but we have a water issue. We have a pension issue, like the city's in financial catastrophe. Yeah. And yet I consistently hear that folks don't want to enter into the political arena because they're like, well, why am I going to waste my time? Why am I going to go and try to disrupt the apple cart and ultimately end up making enemies? Brian, what say you to those folks who they want to get involved, but they're afraid that, I'm just going to ruffle feathers and it's going to be a wasted effort across the board regardless?
Yeah. So that's one thing I hate is I hate big business and I hate establishments. And I have made some money by going and helping rip up some establishments, doing recall elections. And, one of the things that I talk to people a lot of times when we're at the table about that, I always tell them that, because a lot of people are like, well, this isn't going to work, or, we get this person out, we get a recall, people are just going to vote for him anyway. And I tell them, when you talk like that, you might as well just give it up and not do anything to begin with. And I think when we go back to our founders, I mean, how many times were they told that? How many times were our founders like, Big England's going to come over here and take you out.
Big England.
Big England, right? Like, to God and mother and country and whatever. But look what happened. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have to work a couple Mondays ago. They did. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. And so I always tell people that's the best thing about our democracy, is that you got a voice. Like, if you're for something and you're the only one out of one out of percentage of 99, then go for it. Go for it and make your voice be heard. And I think that's what happens a lot on the grassroots, is that you'll get some of those people like that really want to fight hard, but then you'll get some people that had that really awesome opportunity or amazing opportunity to do it, and they're just afraid to take that first step. And I think once you take that step out and you know that you have the freedom to have your voice and to say what you feel about whoever, what's going on in office, or the establishment in your county or your city or whatever, and get a group together or get a pack together and really learn how to canvass yourself and teach people actual facts of what's going on, things people don't know. and you will be surprised what you can do and the people that will come in behind you to start supporting you. And so I had people all the time. They're like, hey, I've got this pack and I want to walk, but we have $3,000, but I want to hit 40,000 houses. And I'm like, okay, cool. Why don't you get your pack out there about what your message is and what you want to try to do and how you want to get rid of this establishment or so on and so forth, and call me back in a few months. And then they do, and then they've raised like $100,000, and they're like, we were ready to do this. We want to do digital. We want to do all this kind of stuff, or whatever. And so I think that's what it is people are afraid to step out and to have that voice, and they feel like they're not counted. And I hate that so much. I hate that for people. And that's the one thing, we talked about kids. I have 4, and that's the one thing I teach my sons and my daughters all the time is that they do have a voice, no matter how young they are. They have a voice, and they are to be heard. They're going to let their voices be heard, and they're going to get out there, and they do. And so sometimes they stand on the table and say they don't want peace. But I mean, I may have messed my wife up on that one, but they still have a voice, and not a democracy.
You're starting the anti-P caucus at your Rivera household. Smart move. The wife will surely love you for that.
Yeah, my son's lobbying for the P people. So there's that, so. But, and that's just the thing. I think it's just a matter of people, especially people that are listening to me now, like, you got to get out there and, like, whatever it is, like, if you're for something and, if there's something you want to change in your city charter, which I'm in a city now, we're doing a charter. Like, if you want to change something, do some changes, like, research it, look at what other cities nearby are doing, and see how people have done those charters. There's a city I'm helping right now where they want to build some roads, and there's a group that are against them, and they're kind of trying to change all these things. And there's a powerful group that wants to go because they want these things, or so on and so forth. And so I think it's just being the voice is what's most important. It's like, let's get it, let's get the torch, and let's go. So.
All right, Brian, we are at the tail end of the episode. And for my final question for today, I'm going to give you the microphone. And that is I want you to, it doesn't matter if they're running for local dog catcher or they're running for president of the United States. Now, just in general, not having dementia, probably a good first step, or Parkinson's or whatever Biden is dealing with right now at his octogenarian state, but neither here nor there. What would be just let's maybe say 5, like the 5 basic starting off points or principles that you would sit down with a new candidate and say, here are 5 things. And it might not be 5. I'm putting that as my number, but 5 things that you should do and will immediately put you in a better spot to secure victory at the ballot box come November, were you not to do these other 5 things. What would those 5 things be?
Yeah. So first thing is know your audience. You got to know, who's going to be supporting you. What group of people are behind you? Is it, pro-union, anti-union area, whatever it is, like, who's going to be supporting you? And if it's not a big group, who do you want to support you? Which group? You want the, Episcopalians, or you want Protestants, or whatever the group, or females, that happens a lot with women or female candidates, is they want to get the female vote, or they want the family vote. And so know what you're targeting. I guess that would be most important as one is know what you're targeting, know what you need to target. If the opponent already is targeting those groups, then you target them and show them why you're the best fish. And that's usually the second one is, how do you sell yourself? Like whether you're selling yourself at the door. I always tell people that candidates do better at the door than anybody else, because nobody can sell the candidate better than they can, or their spouse or loved one. And I always tell people, so like, know how to sell yourself. And third most important thing is like, knowing your region, your area, what the people are actually wanting. And sometimes I get candidates like, I don't know what they want. And it's like, cool, well, let's go hit about a few thousand doors and let's see what the people say. Survey people. Don't do the typical, I'm just gonna, hey, I want to know if you're voting, blah, blah, blah. No, ask questions. Ask them what's important to them. Get a list of things that poll really well in your district, or in your county, or in your congressional district, state district, whatever, and see what people are saying at the doors. That is the best way to not hyper focus, but to just to market that area, or and so how to hyper target that area. And so that's good. And so and the fourth thing, most important, is just like knowing, I think we talked about this last time, is having the time, and know that you have the time to be able to do this, because it is a job. It really is a job, no matter what the position or how much it pays. It is a job when you become an elected official, because now you have people that, whether you have a city of 45,000 or a city of 4,500, have people that are asking you for things. There are people that want to know why things aren't being done, and why best, or or hey, something's happening in our city, or there's overgrown bushes in a house or whatever. So know that you have the time. And fifth, get support from people. And I think that kind of ties in with the first one, but get support from your friends and family. Let them know that you're about to run. NDAs are always good sometimes. If it's a consultant, choose a good consultant firm to talk to. I think we talked about this last time too. Like, get somebody that can kind of talk to you about some things, what the process is going to be like, and be prepared. And my Achilles heel, most important, is if a candidate's not walking themselves, we're probably not going to win. I always tell people that, like, if you can get them to go walk and hit doors, they will. And it's because people want to see them, and people do want to see the candidate at the door, no matter what size your race is, no matter what it is. They want to say, I've walked the doors with the governor before, in 2002. So at the sitting governor at the time. And so, like, just be able to get out there and be able to know that that candidate needs to get out there and tell the people what they plan to do. And so that's important.
Brian, I don't know if you did this intentionally, right? But this is why I had you do that, because we teach sales and marketing, and yeah, we talk about politics here in the Brian Nichols Show, obviously. But I've said this many times here in the show, and I actually get some pushback from folks who they're not in the business world. They're like, Brian, I get that you talk about sales and marketing. I know you're really passionate about it. That's your day job, but like, I care about politics. This is why we talk about sales and marketing, because if you listen to the 5 things that Brian just outlined, know your market, know how to sell yourself, focus on the issues that the voters care about, the time requirement, and then making sure that you have a support structure. I mean, hell, guys, the first 3 of those things are literally things we talk about every single day here in the Brian Nichols Show. Know your market. We call that your ICP, your ideal customer persona. I coined that our IVP, our ideal voter persona. So knowing who that ideal voter is. How to sell yourself. How many times in the show have I said you're selling yourself, an idea, a product, a service, whatever it may be? Everything is sales. Issues that the voters care about. Do I need to play my intro again? Meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. I mean, right there, right? The first 3 things you outline are literally like the basic tenets of successful sales. And I just want to make sure that as I do my final thoughts for today, I'm tying that up in a nice, neat bow, because the sales side of thing is just as important as the politics, the principles, the values, the morals that you're trying to sell. If you don't know how to sell them, it doesn't matter how right you are, or how your values mean so much to you, or how religious you are. None of that matters if you don't know how to sell it. And again, just going back to the first 3 things that Brian listed there, those are literally the first 3 things when I sit down with a new business that I'm going to be consulting with. I'm figuring out who is their ideal customer persona. I want to figure out their sales team and what are the value statements that they're making. And I also want to figure out who are their customers and what do they actually care about. Like, those are things that are paramount in business as well as in politics. That's my final thoughts for today. Brian, thank you so much for outlining that. Now, as I turn things over to you to wrap things up, I would be remiss if I did not have a call to action, and that is for any politicians or folks who are maybe figuring out, is running for elected office right for me? They might be a little behind the 8 ball here as we're recording on July 11th, for the election coming down the road in less than 6 months, 5 months. So might not be a great time to dip their toe into the water. But Brian, for folks who maybe are playing along at the home game, they say, maybe you want to look at politics sometime in the future. Where can they go ahead, reach out to you if they're looking for some support, some help, or hey, if they even want to go ahead and reach out to you to purchase your services, I guess, from Texas Hometown Solutions? What does that process look like, and where can folks continue the conversation on the social medias should they want to continue moving forward?
Yeah. Thanks. So put my email in there, or my email is brian@txhts.com. And also the website's www.txhts.com. And they can contact me. They can email. I love to get their emails. Goes right to my phone. So I can check those and talk to people and just have like a free consultant, consultation conversation about, what it takes to walk and what people are needed to do that at the door. And whether, like Brian said, whether you're walking now or whether you plan on walking in another year or so, just have a goal and have a target and what you need to target for your specific district. I love doing that. I love teaming up with people where we get to teach people how to do that. And I like to walk for people and teach them those same values that we talked about just a second ago. So good luck out there to everybody.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, how about this? If you've been enjoying today's episode, you want to continue the conversation, you want to learn more, have no worries. All you got to do is click down below in the video or show note description. All the aforementioned links, they're all included there as well. So please go ahead, reach out to Brian, give him some love. When you do, please tell him you heard him over on the Brian with an I Nichols Show. I know he would appreciate that. And I always appreciate when you guys reach out and say you heard some folks on the program as well. Now, for the folks who are either, they're listening to the show and they're like, oh, you keep on saying watch the show. Yes, there is a video version of the show. So if you like to consume your content in a video format, have no fears. Head to YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, or Facebook. We are uploading the video version of the show in its entirety. Just do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, and of course, head down below into the comments, continue the conversation. We want to hear your thoughts. Have you run for office before? And if so, is Brian on the right path? Am I on the right path? We want to hear your thoughts. Please fill out the comments and continue the conversation there. Or if you are an audio listener, podcast platform, wherever it is you like to consume your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, I Like Podcast Addict, wherever that may be, just make sure you hit that subscribe button. And one final plug, and that is to please support the folks who support us, and that is our amazing sponsors like Amp America, Cardio Miracle, Ebles CBD, Liquid Freedom Energy Tea, and more. I think that's all I have for us today. Brian, any final words as we wrap things up?
No, just get out there and vote. I mean, that's the most important thing. Just make sure, no matter what, do your research, get started, talk to the people at your door, tell them what you think, and tell them to get it back to the candidate, and let your voice be heard and know that it is.
But Brian, my vote doesn't matter. We already addressed that today, guys. We don't like to hear that. So stop saying that. And yes, get involved. With that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for Brian Rivera. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.